Alright, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about how to get better at Apex. I want to preference all of this as to say that this isn't a how-to guide. This isn't where you should land, or I'll cover some of that, but this isn't like what guns you should use, or this isn't like a diagram type of tutorial. I'm basically just going to talk over some B-roll film, and I normally post a lot of 4K damage games with the new legends or some of the old ones. I have a series ongoing right now about all that, but it's good to know that, like, when you watch some of these guys that put out all these amazing gameplays, that they have B-roll films just like everybody else. And I think that's one of the first things that you have to really learn about Apex, is that you have to kind of manage your expectations based on what the game gives you. And what I mean by that is that, if you spawn into a game and it shows there's only 17 squads, like when you first land, your odds of getting like a 20 bomb or like a 4K or something like that, they go right out the window. Your odds of that are already low as they are. But if you start out with less than a full server, your odds just go tremendously out the door. So for me, when I'm looking at stuff like that, whenever I spawn in, I look at how many players there are, and okay, so there's only 19 people left here. I'm thinking, okay, 20 bombs probably out of the question. I can still get high damage. Probably, maybe like a 3K or something like that. Maybe max like 10, 11, 12 kills, something like that. But as the ring in the game progresses, after I've landed, I keep an eye on it all the time. And I see how many squads are left, and from there, I just manage my expectations. If there's only 5 squads left, which happens a lot in Apex now, by the first time the first ring closes, obviously, there's no reason for me to go throw myself in a really bad situation, like a 1v3, when at that point my expectations for the game are, hey, I might get 5 kills, but my ultimate goal here is victory. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned from playing with other people, and just in general, is that people just don't manage their expectations when it comes to Apex. They jump into every game and they expect, oh, I could get a 4K, oh, I could get a 20 bomb and all that, without actually really looking at, where everyone dropped in the ship, what kind of rotation you're going to get from the map, and how many people are in the game, period. Like I said, I queue up all the time and I get like 17 squads, period. Like, okay, like I'm not going to be able to get no 20 bomb with that, right? So that's a big part of it, and I think if you manage your expectations, you don't set yourself up for disappointment. Especially if you're trying to get really good gameplay. You look at other streamers and you see all their best gameplay. Like I said, like I usually put out all my best gameplay on here. This is just a B-roll in the background type of deal, but we don't get that all the time. I'd say 1% of the time you get these games where you're able to do all these goals, like 4Ks and 20 bombs, or 15 kills and 5Ks. I've done that too. So I think it's just really important to manage expectations when it comes to all that stuff. And then as you're progressing through the game, you keep an eye on it so you can know what to expect from it. I think a lot of people get really desperate really soon, and maybe a game that would have lasted a lot longer, yeah, maybe there's only 10 squads left, but maybe you could have farmed for another 1,000 damage and should have 1,500 damage, you ended up with 25, just stuff like that. And I know all that stuff is really hard to gauge, especially if you queue with a full team. So that's one of the things that I want to talk about the most. And for me personally, I didn't really learn too much when I had a full squad. I used to play with 2 guys that had KDs of like 3+. I think one of the guys had like a 4 KD, and the other guy had like a 3.75 or something like that. And at the time when I was first learning Apex, like I think I had a KD of like 1.15 or something like that. Like it was very, very low. And I didn't learn a lot from those guys because they just basically pushed all the time. They hot dropped all the time. They were just always wanting that, like, you know, that big game. And now that I've been playing Apex for a while now, I would say, just my personal opinion. I know some other streamers and stuff like that. They might tell you different, but honestly, hot dropping, in my opinion, is the dumbest thing you can do in Apex. Your chances of survival and getting a good game, I mean, they just go down so much. Like, I mean, by a mile. Because it's a battle royale, right? Like, there's no set variables. You don't know what gun you're gonna land on. You don't know what shield you're gonna get. All of that sort of thing. So why put yourself in that situation? Most of my 4K damage games that I've had, 5Ks, all of that sort of thing, have been from me whenever I first land. I've landed on a replicator. I loot the entire place all by myself. I make like 4 batteries, and then basically, like if you would equate it to like Warzone or something like that, I have a full loadout. So I have all of the tools that I need to succeed. And whenever you hot drop, you're literally just hoping for the best. I don't care how good you are at this game. Hot dropping is literally a luck of the draw type of situation. You know, you can drop in and you know, hold mouse 2 and look around and see how many teams are dropping with you. That's great that you got that information. But you have no idea what guns they landed on, you know, and what kind of loot you're going to land on. So in my personal opinion of that, I know a lot of 20 bomb guides and 4K guides and all that sort of thing. They always say, "Oh, you got to land hot, you got to land hot." No, you don't. Because you know what? You could land hot and still half the server might die before the first round. So what did it merit you to land hot other than the highest chance that you would die? Now, if you're a Warzone fan, I'm pretty sure that you could look it up and you could see what your chances are of when you land like Superstore, you know, that sort of thing. It's the same thing with Apex. Like, you could look it up. Your chances landing in the middle of the map, I mean, they just go, like, your chances of winning that game just go down by so much. So it's just something that I've picked up along the way. I know a lot of people might disagree with me on that, but that's fine. I doubt that they've ever gotten 5K damage in Apex. So the next thing that I was going to talk about was Legends. And just from me personally, before I had a real mastery of all the guns in Apex, and I think that's a real problem for a lot of people, is because, I mean, I don't know how much time you get to spend on Apex, right? So maybe you only get to spend like 1 or 2 hours on Apex, something like that. I mean, you don't have time to sit there and master every single gun, every single recoil pattern. You know, you don't have to learn the Mozambique spray pattern and all that sort of thing, right? So what I did is, back in the day, actually, when loba was kind of new, I got really tired of like looking around for a red dot sight, because a 1x on the R99 to me was really like, for whatever reason, just my aim felt the best on it, right? And so I got really tired of like looking around for it, and like I'd get halfway through a game and like my shot was off and all that sort of thing. But I got loba, and then I don't have to look for ammo anymore. I don't have to look for my preferred sight. Most of the time I could get like the flatline and R99, which is what I used to run back in the day before the Spitfire was meta. And I really think running her like really gives yourself a consistent chance of becoming better at a game, because you can land, and relatively most of the time you can get the same guns and the same attachments almost every match, you know. So for me, that was a really big milestone of just kind of learning. And then, you know, as you play more, you know, you'll get used to everything else. But I mean, like I said, not everyone has that option though. So for me, the best thing in the world to do is a cheat code. You don't have to look around for ammo or any of that stuff with loba. You just put it down, and I mean, in a couple of alts, I mean, you have all the attachments and stuff that you need. Another thing that I really started to learn as I went on was that you don't necessarily have to land in really contested areas. A lot of the times in my 4K damage gameplay and 20 bombs, I landed on a replicator, and I got my 4 batteries before I even moved out of there. You know, and like I said, this goes back to like the managing expectations part of it. You know, you land, you get all the tools that you need, right? And then you look up and you see how many squads are left, and then from there you say, okay, realistically, how many kills can I get from this? And then you kind of judge your gameplay from that, right? You know, you can't land and then, you know, make your batteries and, you know, throw your loba alt down and get, you know, the sights and stuff that you prefer and all that, and look up and there's 7 squads left and tell yourself, oh, I'm probably going to get a 4K from this. It's probably not going to happen, you know. But the good thing is, when it's not like that and you land there and you loot up and you got all, you know, your loadout, like I said, and you see 17 squads left, well, now you've got a real chance. And not only that, you have a real chance, and you have all of the tools that you need to get in and out of a situation. Like, you've got batteries, you've got ammo, all of that, you got the sights. So at that point, you have no excuses on why you can't succeed, right? Which brings me to the other part that I was going to talk about, and that is solo queuing. I truly do not believe that you will get better at Apex unless you solo queue. I know it's crazy, like, to solo queue, and it feels like it's an insurmountable task. Oh, this guy's AFK. I forgot about this. But there's no better way to learn how to 1v3 people than to 1v3 people and know that you absolutely have no help. And on that part of it, I don't want to really go in depth of it. Like, there's tons of other videos that talk about like how to 1v3 and, you know, all this sort of thing. And the honest truth is, like, you just, if you're in that situation enough times, you're going to learn how to do it. And the best way to do it now is that you guys got a cheat code now, because like when I was solo queuing 1v3 stuff like that, I didn't get the option to turn off like teammates and just solo queue. You know, I always had to deal with some teammate that was, you know, off doing his own thing or whatever, right? So right now, the best thing you can do, like if you really want to get better, like I said, I'll probably run loba. I'd land on a replicator, and then I would solo queue, no fill, and just learn. And you can die, you know, 5, 6, 7, 10 times, whatever it is, right? That's fine. But every time that you solo queue and you learn more and more. You learn what it takes, you know, to kill a full team, how to position yourself, all of that sort of thing. Every time that you do it, and you get a feel for it. That's the only way you can learn. Like, I promise. Like, all these how-to guides and all that stuff, that's well and good. Like, I don't mean no hate to anybody else, but you won't learn anything until you actually do it yourself. And what better way to do it than put yourself into a 1v3 every single time that you go up against another team? You'll realize sometimes whenever you gotta back out. You'll realize sometimes when you get better at it, you'll even realize when you've lost the fight, when you've got 2 down and there's nothing you can do about it. So anyways, that's just my tips and guides for my tips or guides, or however you want to say it, for how to get better at Apex. That's just like a little guide there for you. And I wish you guys all the luck in the world, and we'll see you again real soon.